Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I mean, this has been quite an exciting project for the practice, really. For those of us who know our work, we're architects, master plan designers, do a lot of work in Birmingham, London, have been involved in quite some large major schemes across the UK, but actually it's really nice to get into slightly different scale of projects, and particularly in the kind of the context of Canary Wharf. So we started this journey back in 2020, really, with Canary Wharf. I think everyone probably has seen various news clippings, you know, particularly post-pandemic, about the changing dynamic in office environments. And of course, you know, Canary Wharf is front and centre of that. And it's also, you know, a hugely a very diverse place, particularly on the kind of the wider island of Canary Wharf. And you know, the one thing that they're very aware of is you know, their kind of outreach program, how they engage with the wider Tower Hamlets community. So with that kind of in mind, they asked us to come in and help them kind of holistically look at the wider urban fabric of the estate. So as much as it was about kind of greening the estate, and actually, as you can kind of see on this image here, it has pretty good green spaces at the moment. One of the things they asked us to look at was, how do these spaces start to connect together? How can people feel more in touch and connected to nature? What is the kind of broader ambition of the estate for the next kind of 20 to 40 years in terms of, you know, attracting both people to come and spend time in the estate, but tenants and businesses as well. So the image, I mean, I think it probably still is largely perceived as a kind of a financial district. Certainly, you know, if there's a news clipping about inflation or stock markets, you tend to get, you know, accompanying a picture of Canary Wharf with it. And that kind of perceived barrier is one of the things that they've been really hard trying to push against for the last, 10 years or so. Wood Wharf has obviously now largely been delivered, and that's now home to 3,500 people. And so it's kind of gone from that image on the left with traders on large office floor plates to something much more diverse, got a mixture of life sciences, schools, education. The Crossrail gardens are really fantastic as well. So it's been on this kind of transition over the last 10 to 10 years to, you know, what is a hugely kind of mixed use community. The challenges the estate faces, I guess the public realm, particularly in the historic part of the estate, the original part of it that was created in the 80s, has never really kind of caught up. So, you've got a very kind of curated, manicured public realm. A lot of it is quite hard landscape. The buildings and the way the original master plan was conceived was it really kind of turned its back on the water, which feels, you know, so counterintuitive now. Which one? I mean, so one of the that image on the right there, you know, south-facing dockside, waterside environment, and it's mainly occupied by ancillary spaces to offices, cycle stands. It's one of the few places where you can kind of go smoke in the estate. Just kind of forgotten pieces of urban landscape, really. And then the other thing to say is it's actually teeming with life when you go below ground. The shopping mall does extremely well. It's a nice, heated in the winter, cooled in the summer environment. It's got all the kind of shops that you might want. But that has a counterproductive effect on the urban streetscape, and it obviously kind of sucks that life down. And, you know, the consequence of that is, you know, pieces of the urban realm at that street level feel very disconnected, lacking kind of activity. And so, yeah, I mean, those are kind of some of the challenges, really. And that's the plan of what this estate is. So it has these kind of set piece open spaces, those pockets of greenery that are quite large, but actually, and then vast water bodies that interconnect that. And that's obviously what the estate originally was created from. But obviously, it's kind of the streets and the dock edges that connect all those pieces up. That's kind of the connecting tissue. So, you know, that's probably, you know, at kind of an urban level, the most important thing about the environment is how to start to connect some of these pieces together. So what we started to look at was, you know, what a future Canary Wharf might start to look like. And some of these initiatives have started to come forward, including, floating pavilions, which we worked on in Wood Wharf as well. But the bit I wanted to kind of focus on today, and this is the kind of the first piece and the milestone, is Middle Dock. And I should say, I mentioned it at the beginning, that Canary Wharf Group have partnered with the Eden project. That's been in place since about 2021. So there was kind of a long-term partnership there, and recognising obviously the benefit of nature and the expertise that Eden can bring to that. So yeah, Middle Dock is really the focal point, and I'll show you some of the images of what we've got at the moment. So I mean, this is as you come out of the Jubilee line, which, you know, for the majority of people, particularly pre-Crossrail, would have been their initial arrival experience into the estate. What you see in front of you, more cycle Santander stands, and then kind of a raised upstand, which is actually ventilation shaft for the Jubilee line. So there's no kind of physical way of, you know, connecting with that water at the moment, unless you kind of wrap around the sides. People would kind of gather here during the day. It's obviously somewhere where you might meet someone. As you come out the station at lunch, people go in and they sit on the raised steps there. But there's never really been anything for them. That's a view around the side. So that's actually, at the moment, the existing, well, actually a few months ago now, what the existing condition is like. It's not a particularly nice environment to spend any great length of time in. High dock walls also prevent kind of engagement and access to the water. The water is actually very clean. They use it, they have used it for years for open water swimming. They can manage it, and so it's one of, I think, 8 places in London that you can swim in open water. But you know, the landscape around it was never really kind of fit for purpose. You know, kind of piecemeal greening strategy as well. That's kind of been thrown together. So our vision for what we wanted Middle Dock to become, we wanted it to become active, more opportunity, connect with leisure and water sports, bring nature into the heart of the space, and also opportunities to have more you know, experience-based environment, stage, performance. There's a strong cultural program at Canary Wharf that they're very proud of, and rightly so, and there's an opportunity to kind of tap into that as well. So what we proposed was a series of floating pontoons, platforms and bridges, effectively, that were going to occupy different parts of Middle Dock, mainly sitting on the north side. It gets the best sunlight throughout the day, creating a more positive arrival experience as you come immediately out of the Jubilee line, and then having a transition down to water level through underneath the existing bridges, and then having a connection into water sports areas, opportunities for learning, floating forests. We developed the vision with CRT, Tower Hamlets. It had to be pushed back a lot. There was a lot of discussion at pre-application level about water coverage. That's a sensitive issue for the wider area. Canary Wharf has historically been building on the water. This is a little bit different, but you know, the perceived nature of the water, it's also a historic dock, needed to be kind of considered in balance with the public benefit that the scheme would bring. We've developed, it's quite a modular system effectively. It's all kind of standard timber sizes, off-the-shelf pontoons effectively, that support this as 3 or 4 critical ingredients that have then really just been rolled out beyond that. So you've got floating forests, you've got pontoons that step out into the water, you've got bleacher style seating where landscaping can be integrated, and then you've got this kind of floating boardwalk that connects all those pieces together. So it's really this kind of kit of parts that we started to develop, and allowed that to come together as an application back in 2021, and it's about to open next week really, as the first phase. So we've got that kind of raised step seating immediately as you come outside bleacher, outside Jubilee Plaza, then down onto that kind of set piece, and you're allowed to take in the views of the Middle Dock. There'll be lots of planting around the edges, so we've been working with HTA, Arup, who have been doing the engineering, and Biomatrix, who have been doing the water-based planting as well, and some of the water-based solutions, you know, in terms of enhancing biodiversity. And Green Gauge have been part of that team as well. So we're delivering about 55% biodiversity net gain. Obviously, kind of generally at London in applications, you have a target of about 10. This has obviously been a real opportunity to push significantly above that. And the CGI from just, you've got the Jubilee line on the bottom right there, looking out across. And actually, you know, it's one of those things that you don't always put the CGIs right next to the or almost complete pictures, but it is actually really, you know, the investment in the landscaping, the quality of the timber, and the finishes has really allowed it to actually start to look like a lot like we imagined it would quite a few years ago, and really started to kind of change that nature. So this is the new arrival experience. The image on the left as the existing, haven't got a flat on one yet, still hoardings up. These are obviously kind of in progress photos. But new seating that allows people to sit there and dwell, to take in and have a bit of a arrival spot as they come out of Jubilee Plaza. Then up into what is this raised terrace, where you get this fantastic view out across the wood, the space. I should say it's also accessible at each level and the intermediate level, so there's quite a lot of level change. The dock water itself fluctuates a little bit. It is obviously tidal, but they can control that. So you've got about 300 mil of water up and down every day. It's actually the loading of people, rain into the planters that can affect it. So actually, the intolerance of the tolerance of the levels is designed for about a meter's worth of level difference. So we've had to lean heavily on Arup to support that. The floating pontoons bring you right the way down. One of the things we are very keen on is to avoid too many handrails and guardrails, and have a freeboard effectively as low as possible. That idea of being able to just kind of reach out and touch the water, touch the plants was very important to us. What you have is effectively a 50 mil upstand that will be lit at night. That obviously avoids scooters or buggies accidentally veering off into the water, but you don't necessarily have handrails, which gives it a much more kind of a closer feel to being connected to nature. I should say, if you did end up in it, and I'll skip to that, quite a good detail, we have effectively below water grills that are designed to basically take the weight of someone falling in. So those sit just below the waterline. That obviously provides an opportunity for the landscape to grow as well, and fish environments. We've got little fish pods that sit beneath that as well. But that is effectively designed to catch you if you fell into the water. You'd end up a bit wet, but not likely to get more than that. So yeah, that's probably one of the key kind of safety features. And just looking at the examples, it's built of tropical kind of hardwood timber. There's been a lot of discussion about the kind of sustainability benefits of that. Ultimately, it's something that needs to be kind of robust, long-lasting. I understand, take into account impact as well. It's going to have a lot of people walking over it. We've got a 20-year life warranty on that kind of timber. All of the dock and the works that have been put in are mechanically fixed as well, so it can all be effectively taken down, recycled, rebuilt potentially elsewhere as well. And so yeah, hopefully it's going to, it will be opening in a week or so's time. And obviously there's, with floating elements and floating structures in water, there's always a little bit unknown, but there's been a lot of kind of calculations about loading. We're expecting it to be quite busy, quite popular, particularly while it's still a little bit warmer. And obviously keen for people to come down and visit it. Hopefully it is just going to be kind of that first step in reimagining Canary Wharf as it does transition towards a new mixed-use community. Thank you.
Thank you.